emailed me back and said no, that the board meetings were closed to MBRA members. I've been a member for at least 15 years, maybe longer than that, and I was rather astounded by that response. I don't know what the MBRA board could be discussing that's so sensitive that if one of our members wanted to sit in and observe the meeting, that should be a problem. And Mary indicated that that was a long-standing practice. I certainly was never familiar with that practice in all the years that I've been a member of MBRA. So I thought it should be raised and discussed this evening because I think it's a very bad rule, if it's a rule, and I think we should see how the members feel about that.
Patty, did you want to say anything?
The only thought that I had was that I've been on several different boards over the years, school boards, public boards, service boards, primarily Piedmont Dispute Resolution Center. I've been since 1989, and several other, a hospital board, a school board, a couple of other ones. Board meetings have always been closed. Every one that I've ever been on, they're not. If the experience that I have had is that if we need specific information or would like some input from a certain member of the community or person that needs to address an issue, then that usually is an invitation to come to the board. It's not an open public invitation for anyone that wants to sit in. So,
what do you have in mind? What do you have in mind?
I don't have anything. As far as I know, the board doesn't.
Okay.
It's a matter of,
Yeah.
of being comfortable, low-key atmosphere.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Patty. Now, I would like to address that question. Over the weekend, Peter did suddenly ask, we haven't had this request from him for, since in recent years. I do know in my experience in 9 years as serving as a director on the board, from my experience, everyone who came was invited and stayed for that time when they wanted to speak and then left. For example, Peter would come if he wanted the board to support something, a letter for the Board of Supervisors or something like that. He would come and then he would leave and the board would do their business. Now, I think y'all are confusing us with a governmental body. We are not a governmental body. For private organizations, it is up to the organization, as Patty has said. And Patty, also, I think you mentioned all your years on the MBRA board, it was a private meeting. I have never seen in my 9 years this be a public meeting. Because, why? Because it's for like work session and planning. Our board members, we put in tons of hours. This is like another full-time job. So basically I have 2 full-time jobs. We do everything for the community. We're volunteers, blood, sweat, and tears. We're not wealthy investors. We're not wealthy real estate owners. We're doing this because we are, each one of us, following, being true to ourselves to fulfill the mission statement that we have, which is to promote and enhance the quality of personal and professional life in Marshall. Now, I know our board has broken from the long-standing tradition of always taking a certain position, whatever the county or our supervisor position or anything. We have a variety, we're a diverse board. We have a diverse set of opinions. And perhaps that's the first time the MBRA board has ever had a diverse set of opinions, but we tolerate everyone. You know, we board members, there are many different opinions on our board, and we do what we have to do, and we respect each other. And I certainly would hope Now, we've gotten a lot of heat and pressure because we have allowed diversity of opinion and we have asked questions that maybe were uncomfortable. We appreciate everyone's contribution to this community, and we encourage each one of you, whatever your position is on any topic before Marshall, please stay true to yourselves and keep that position and follow your heart. And we can all work through everything we need to work through together. Now, I know, Peter, you asked, I know you were unhappy that you couldn't attend the board meeting, but like I said, it was a long-standing practice. This is a public forum, and you did ask, and that's great. And I did get your Saturday night email, Sunday night email, late Sunday night, demanding 10 years of our records.
I didn't demand
by tonight.
anything, Mary. Okay, let's not characterize it that way. When you told me that members were not allowed to attend the board meetings, I looked at the bylaws, and the bylaws say that the board is required to keep minutes of all board actions. So if members are not allowed to attend the meetings, which is something I think the membership needs to make a decision about going forward, I certainly think that in accordance with the bylaws, the members ought to be able to see all of the minutes of board meetings so we can see the actions that the board has taken over the years.
And we have no, thank you, that's a good question.
Let me finish, please.
Yes.
I requested it, and I specifically said that if there was any cost incurred in making copies of those minutes, I'd be happy to pay that cost so that the organization didn't incur that cost.
Yes.
I think that is not the primary issue here. I think the primary issue here is that I know a number of members of this organization who are longstanding members that I have talked to are incredulous that a member can't simply go and observe a board meeting. I didn't ask to participate, I'm not a board member. I asked to attend and observe, and as you can imagine, I have sat on many boards in my life, both governmental boards, community organization boards, and private corporate boards. And frankly, I have never sat on a board where someone involved in the organization, whether it was a member of the community.
You were on the Board of Supervisors, weren't you? They have private work sessions, don't they?
No, anybody can attend the work session.
They do have closed sessions. Yes.
We've only had closed sessions where the law required it in connection with personnel matters. And the fact of the matter is, this isn't the Board of Supervisors. This is an organization that is supposed to represent its members. The board is supposed to represent the membership of the MBRA, and the board needs to be accountable to the membership of the MBRA. And if we don't have minutes that we can see, and we can't observe the meetings, then there's no way to determine whether the board is taking actions or making decisions that are reflective of this organization's membership.
Well, Peter, I am definitely, I was going to tell you tonight, I'm definitely working on that. We're definitely looking into your request, but I do have to say that I feel it was rather aggressive and hostile to request them by tonight, less than 48 hours, 10 years of records. So I just want to say that I think we need to go on and keep this on a positive note. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm the secretary of the Leeds Roritan Club, and I consider that to be sort of a similar community event. And as a stated practice, all of our members are invited to the meeting.
Okay, and that's fine, and each private civic group can decide how they want. We also have sensitive matters we don't want to embarrass past leadership in any way, and we're dealing with them. And also, there is a certain factor that some people in this community have said for years to me, and I didn't really see it myself until the past couple of years, that they feel intimidated about speaking up. They feel there's going to be bullying or retaliation or something like that if they don't go along with the recommended, the powers that be, whatever they call them, whatever the idea is. If they have a different opinion, okay, this is America, we shouldn't feel that way. Okay, we shouldn't feel, like I said, be true to ourselves and stick with that, Dan.
I appreciate that, but I came up to you after the meeting at the Rotary Club, because as someone who is not opposed to the renovation and improvement as it stands, felt that my voice was definitely not being heard. So to have, for me, who started coming here because it was a nice meeting and it was lovely and it was all supportive and it was all warm and fuzzy, to start feeling uncomfortable coming to these meetings, like that's what you're talking about, is people feeling like they weren't heard and feeling like they were getting bullied. I definitely feel that way now. I feel very hesitant to speak up for my position, especially knowing that it's very clear, or I perceived it as being very clear, as how the MBRA was being represented specifically by you.
In what way? Because the statement that we made at our September meeting, is that the question?
Well, for one, but also the questions that were asked at the meeting seemed very one-sided.
Well, actually, those questions were put forth, and I did speak with you afterwards, and I encouraged you to definitely stay true to yourself and your opinion. Those questions were put forth by people who are both for and against and anywhere in between in the project. So
Right, but the perception is that the group as a majority is against. I'm not asking.
that's correct.
I'm-
The group in September was against, but we have to be able to flesh things
Well,
out. Excuse me, hold on.
No.
Hold on just a second.
What group?
The board, excuse me, the board in September was against, but hear me out. We have to be able to flesh things out because we are constantly getting new information and changing. And if we don't, in the course of this process, you don't know if we're going to end up changing it. You don't know. This is just the simple process of getting information. And we have to allow the civil discourse. Now, I didn't hear that there was any complaint that anyone was rude, that I was rude, that questioned the moderator or anything else at that time. That's not the case. It was very nicely delivered. We wanted to find out the answers to the questions. You don't
I don't know
know.
why you're hearing that now.
You don't
No
know
one's
of-
talking about anyone's
Okay.
behavior.
You don't know if we're gonna change our minds. It's just the process, so. Okay, Sarah.
Yeah, if I can just give you the minutes, and ask you to pick these questions that you've written and find one that you feel is written in an open, welcoming method to gather information. The questions are right there. I'll give you a minute to go through them.
Okay, we already feel that they were appropriate questions. So it might just be that we have to agree to disagree on that. So if everybody would like to stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. This is a short.
I had a question and you didn't answer it.
I already said, we consider these
As a
fine.
follow-up question, who did actually write those questions?
Our entire board, almost everyone in our board, both for and against, wrote these
So not the
questions.
members? Not coming from the membership?
These
just
were
the
questions
board.
that our board
Just the
had,
board.
and some of the board is for and wrote the questions, and some were against, and some were anywhere in between. Debbie?
Question for you. When Mary Lee last year stated that they weren't going to be able to bury the lines, I came to you as the head of MBRA and asked about having a public hearing for the community to discuss the issue so that we could get input from everybody that's been on the board and part of the community. And you said you wanted to deal with Mary Lee and try to find out what the information was. And it ended up getting pushed till September that we had the meeting.
No, I don't remember. When did you say last year? You mean earlier this year?
She mentioned it around May in the meeting,
Yes,
and we met in May or June.
yes.
And so my asking
Mhm.
was, can we open up an MBRA open forum where we can discuss big issues instead of a couple minutes at the end of
Exactly.
the MBRA
Exactly,
meeting?
exactly.
And you stated you would take it to the board. And I never heard a response back if that was possible, so that we can discuss issues like this as a community, not just the board speaking about it, and then presenting questions where we never spoke about it as a community.
Well, like I told you in May, Mary Lee was not ready for it. We wanted to have it in July. I actually asked her, could we have it as early as July? She still wasn't ready for it. She pushed it to September. For us to have a meeting when we don't have the county information would be pretty pointless.
There are people that have been on the board and part of this group for 15+ years, and there was plenty of information within this group that a dialogue would have been a good thing to start so that you could start communicating with Mary Lee and then have a very productive meeting in September. In my
We have
opinion.
been communicating with Mary Lee since May. We have been trying to get information and trying to get just such a meeting with her since May. So we've done the best we could, and that's the best we can get. John?
Mary, could I suggest that the MBRA board members meet and discuss this, come up with a recommendation to the group, and we'll have a vote on it?
That's fine, and also just to let you know, our board did meet yesterday.
The committee gonna vote on it, the members of the board? The membership of MBRA would vote on it.
I think that's a great idea, Ms. Wilkerson. We have a lot of new people that are here today, and we don't want to give them the wrong impression. This is going to be a terrible meeting here towards the end. It's not the way our meetings go. But I think that the board should get together, have an emergency meeting, and we should have a time of the month that we have an open discussion, that people can come to this room or wherever, and we can start talking about all the stuff that you guys like to talk
And I would
about.
suggest
So there's
we-
more dialogue.
That sounds good.
But I think right now is not the
We agree to
time.
get back to the membership
Right.
at the December meeting.
Right. So I think this is definitely not the time right now.
Have a December meeting.
Well, we're gonna have an emergency December meeting, whatever needs to be done as soon as possible, so that the board can meet, and there has to be an open discussion like this is right now, where guests that are coming, that are not members, don't feel like it's drama like this every time, because it's never been like this before. It seems to be a lot of people that are very angry today, that want blood.
Yeah.
I really think, just taking, Dr.
Joe,
Wilson,
you're the person who alleged
Dr.
that
don't
I was
embarrass
having
yourself.
secret
Don't
meetings.
embarrass
Okay?
yourself. You're better than this, don't embarrass yourself, you're better than this. Dr.
No, listen, you put it on social media, you're gonna hear it, okay?
It's okay.
Dr. Wilson, you're better than this, Dr. Wilson.
Shh. Joe, hush. Can I say something, please?
Yes.
MBRA was started many, many moons ago, way before half of you were probably here. Careful now. It was started to keep the lights on in Marshall. Remember? It started with my Aunt Marie, Mo, all of these older
Joan
folks.
Freeze, who served on the initial board. We have the
And they
minutes going back to the
started
beginning.
They started it to keep the street lights on, because we didn't have any, and they felt that it was better. We did bingo. I worked bingo, Mo worked bingo, we all worked bingo. We did that. MBRA was never started, and I don't think was ever intended to be the voice of Marshall, because Marshall's not incorporated, people. We don't have a voice. I'm sorry. You know, the county supervisors are our voice. And unless you want to get incorporated, which I highly recommend not, because they tried it twice.
No, 3 times.
3 times, and it didn't work. So, these meetings are just, to me, are supposed to be to make sure that we know, I mean, the mission statement, well, and not necessarily what's going on is okay, but we can't change our government body. This board is not gonna change the government body. It is what it is. The only thing that this board can do is, the things that they're doing is to make sure that everybody knows what the businesses are in Marshall. Because that's how we're gonna thrive, is if everybody decides to go to Marshall to determine to buy something. That's what they need to do here. You know, Mary going to board of supervisors meetings or whatever, meeting with whatever, with you guys, it's not going to make Marshall better. We need, you know, the beautification of Marshall is great, as long as it's not during my Christmas parade. But it's great. You know, I'm not a fan of the brick, but, you know, that's me against 50,000 other people. So everybody getting all upset tonight is not doing anybody any good. But what you have to do is you have to rein yourself in, because you're becoming, I don't even know, but you just need to rein it in, because you aren't the president or the mayor of Marshall. And you just need to make sure that what you're doing is within your guidelines of the Marshall Business and Residents Association. And your mission statement says to flourish, to make sure that Marshall is flourished.
To
and
protect
doing
and enhance the quality of, it's very active. And I never put myself out there as either of those things. I think,
that. And I didn't say that you did that, but that's how I feel, is that when I see all of these meetings, it's all, it's all about, this was good. I mean, you didn't answer Sarah's, you wouldn't even look at the paper. All you said was, these are all done.
we already were familiar with those questions. Do you have something to say?
I'd like to say something as the secretary, not to forgive me because my voice is mostly gone. Our board has worked very hard this year to gather information and disseminate information to the community. The community was by and large unaware of, if not this project altogether, the details of the project.
No.
Yes.
We just
I am
wanted to
correct.
go-
I need
wanted to
finish.
go
I
on.
need to
Yeah.
finish. As far as your point about what we are, as you said, our mission statement is to protect and enhance the quality of community and professional life in Marshall and very active. If you look at all of the grant applications that the MBRA was used to get this project going 10 years ago, I believe it is Paul Lawrence, I haven't been able to get an answer from him whether it was Mr. Schwartz or Mr. Lawrence who wrote this application, but when sending them into VDOT, the MBRA was used, reference saying that there is no elected body in Marshall because it is not incorporated. So the MBRA is essentially the closest thing to an elected body. It is the closest thing to representing the community. So I need to finish, please, ma'am.
In this election.
There's a lot of hate towards it, but I do need to specify.
Paul's not
Ms.
here.
Green.
Okay, one question at a
I do
time.
need to finish.
Wait a minute, Ann Michelle, you'll have your turn.
That's the secretary of the MBRA, let her finish. How can you interrupt her?
No, I need
Don't interrupt
to
her.
How can you interrupt the
Okay, we're gonna have to
secretary?
close the meeting.
They come on the board.
Get
Get active in the
Can't have it
MBRA.
civil, we'll have to close the meeting.
There's been a lot of hatred towards the MBRA this year, and it is not logical, because the MBRA, it was fine when the MBRA was used to get this project going. That's fine, if we can take positions all the day, till the cows come home. Nobody needs to sit in on board meetings then, but if we come out with a statement saying that our majority of our board opposes it, then all hell breaks loose. So I just want to set the record straight. If you want to see the records, the MBRA has been used as the closest thing to an elected body, and it has been used to take action like this.
Okay, Michelle.
Because Mr. Lawrence was left, because he had to go to a business meeting, but he was here, he actually has a notebook of historical data of the people that were present during all of the discussions, dating back to the early 2000s. Because every time he was present at a meeting, in terms of discussing the Main Street improvements, the comprehensive plans, form-based code discussions, all of that started in 2001. He has an entire notebook of people that signed just similar to this, as far as being in a meeting, where they had signed in and they were MBR members as well.
I asked him for that information several
He
years
was
ago.
bringing it tonight.
He said, when I asked him for that information several years ago, he said there was no record. It was not an official meeting. They were, not recorded. There was no record of the attendance. There's no record of the minutes. He told me that, and he would not give me the information.
Why didn't he give it to you before you left? That was that point.
How about if we just let him, either provide it or not provide it?
I'm going to, here's record, of record. Board of Supervisors meeting, citizen time in September 13th. 2 days after the meeting that we had at the community center, Mary Wilkerson, president of the Marshall MBRA Business and Residents Association, said that at its last meeting, the majority of the members in the organization did not not endorse the current Marshall Main Street improvement project proposed without providing the underground overhead utility. My issue with that is that when you started that meeting, you said the board voted, not the membership. And this is implying that you took a membership vote by going to the Board of Supervisors and speaking on behalf of.
I said that the
MBRA.
board voted. Our board sent me with that message to the Board of Supervisors.
Are you saying that the Board of Supervisors secretary is not?
What does it say
It
again?
actually says the majority of the members of the organization.
Well, then I misspoke, because,
Okay,
or she got it wrong, because it was the majority of the members of our board.
okay.
So either she got it wrong, but that's not what I was saying.
But what is your point of going to the Board of Supervisors at citizen comment? That's my point. What is your point of?
Because she's the only voice, MBRA is the only voice for Marshall. If the MBRA didn't bring it to everyone's attention that they're getting ready to impose taxes on us for these sidewalks and make the sidewalks more narrow through town, no one would ever know. That's why everyone's so upset, because the plan's been ruined or been derailed, because now the MBRA brought it to everyone's attention. That's why the MBRA is so important. I mean, if anyone thinks they can do a better job, start a new club, start a new association, and see what you guys can do. I don't understand why you guys are embarrassing us in front of these new nice guests that came in, and you're making us look like we're illegitimate. It's crazy. And I think in the short term, we should close this meeting. A members board should take a vote, and we should have an emergency forum, so that we can address all these things. Because we can go about this thing all night long.
Right,
I mean, this is.
Wait a minute, yes, Duke's gonna speak. Duke will be the last one, but then I wanna.
You would adjourn.
Right, Duke, hold on just a second. I wanna say that I think that's great, to have another meeting. We will plan another meeting, and if we want, we can have every single member vote, that's fine. But my statement to the board was, to the Board of Supervisors, the majority of our board members. So I don't know if the secretary made a mistake, I don't know what, but that's what I was tasked to do, and that's what I did. Duke.
Thank you, Mayor. I normally don't speak very long, but I have a lot to say. Not like my pastor here, but, all right. But, I just wanted to say, Joe said it, spoke tonight, he's a good man if anybody needs to use anything. And Connie, just to tell you that I'm probably the oldest, been in Marshall longer than anybody in this room. Connie's father, Albert, cut my hair, and so does Connie. So that's how long I've been in Marshall. I went to grade school, high school here. I worked in the banking community for over 50 years here. I served on a lot of committees for the state, for the town, and for the county. But I'm really just, I don't know what to say about this meeting. I'm very disappointed. I told you that I was disappointed with the MBRA. And I tell you why. And I want to clear up something tonight, if I could. It won't take long. I'm very disappointed that you have a couple of members, like Joe, who, everybody goes in his store, he says, you know that Main Street project committee was going behind people's back and closed doors? That is a lie. That did not happen. I've known Dr. Royston for over 40 years. I've known Paul Lawrence since he was this big. I've known his parents for a long time. And Michelle grew up in this town. And I'm telling you now, these are honorable people, and they did not meet behind anybody's back. And that's the main thing I wanted to tell you, that you have a couple board members that are doing that.
That was before I was a board member. I just became board member last night.
You stood up and that's.
That was, whatever anyone's implying I said, I never said it.
You said that. You are a board member now.
I was a little boy then. Now I'm a grown man. I'm going to do better.
Okay,
Thank
you very much.
I grew up to become a man.
Thank you. First of all, let me just say
say one more
something.
thing.
And I want to apologize for Dr. Royston if anybody got scared.
Another organization.
for Dr. Royce.
Oh, I have to. He scared everyone here.
Apologize.
You didn't get scared, you weren't intimidated? We've never had a deputy come to any of our meetings before.
Thank you. I'd like to say something for everyone. The MBRA is going to get back with a meeting. We're going to have a meeting. We'll get back to you about having another meeting on
And you
this
can put people on
topic.
the board without membership voted on it?
It's self-perpetuating.
On this
Members
topic,
have voted on it.
and I would like to just say, look, everybody has the care and concern of Marshall at heart. There is no reason to be so angry. We don't need hate in this room. We don't need hate in this world. There's no reason to be so angry. All of us here have the common goal of the caring about Marshall. And Duke and Dr. Royston, Peter Schwartz, all these people have been working on this for a long, long time. And to their credit, they've put a lot into this and a lot of care. Now, a lot has changed over the past 30, 20, 10 years. Here we are today. We need to engage all of the community. All of the community has questions. Because 30, 20, even 10 years ago, I'm talking to people who didn't know these details. These details of the project are coming out now. The devil is in the details, so now the community needs to look at them. I suggest we do just that. So the MBRA will get back to you with another meeting to address your needs on this.
I'm just curious what the MBRA is gonna get back to us on. Are we gonna have a vote about opening board meetings? Are we gonna have a discussion further about the consternation that exists here? I don't know what our next step is
Okay,
actually going to be.
the next step is our board will call an interim meeting. And our board will discuss this because I think these things are a very good idea. To take the membership, the vote of every single member that wants to come out, I think that'd be a great idea.
If you will wait, please. I've been a member in the past, and I let our membership lapse just out of being too busy. And I, after the September meeting, felt very uncomfortable with the scope and the focus of what was happening. I did my own digging at the county and came up with an understanding of this issue that I think was far more comprehensive than what was presented at either of the two meetings. And I'm back a member here because I'm more concerned with how this is going. And I don't like the idea that something will happen in a boardroom behind me. As a member, I should have access to that information. I'd like to know how I get to know what happens. What you're then as the board representing as what is my opinion on things. It's not clearly the case. I've never been asked.
Okay, for one thing, the board members can share. You can always ask the board members. There's no secret. Nobody asks us. So, I mean, all this thing can all be asked. So, okay, one more question. You've had a couple or three, Sarah. Dr. Royston, one more statement.
So, I ran as speaker and vice speaker of the Medical Society of Virginia, multi-hundred doctor meetings based on Sturgis's rules of parliamentary procedure. And parliamentary procedure is what needs to be used in this organization. And if you don't have it in the bylaws that this is an open forum and you want to make it closed, you have a problem here. And let me tell you, the rules of parliamentary procedure precede the law. And it stands above the law. And the duty of the speaker is to protect the rights of the minority. And I'm standing here to protect the rights of the minority. And I intend to continue to do so.
The minority of people.
One more concern, all right? One more concern. I've heard and I've perceived, as many people in this room have perceived, that there's opposition to making this Main Street a better place and a safer place. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but I believe that you have a sister married to a manual, and one of those manuals that he's related to was killed in front of what's now the Red Truck Bakery. So it defies reason how you could lose some peripheral relative due to safety concerns on Main Street and support opposition to making this a safer place.
Wow.
I also want to tell you something else. When you make this town accessible to Americans with Disabilities, then you have to comply with all of the state and federal regulations. There is nothing in this plan that isn't in the state and federal regulations. And so we're not doing anything different. In fact, this plan is the same plan that was paid for by Marshall National Bank in 1990 by the School of Architecture at Virginia Tech. So due process is important to our well-being. And I want to echo, this man made a hinge for my curtains on Christmas, and he went out of his way to do it. So this lady I now have known for quite a while, she is thinking about living here permanently in this community. We need to make this the best place we can, the safest place we can. And my passion is to make this a better place to live. So we're all on the same page. This lady, there's no words for that. This lady's helping. I mean, every single thing you look at in this community goes back to her family and her relatives, and they're totally dedicated to that fire department, to this health fair that was here, to this community center. Listen, there's more. This lady, my gosh, I've worked with her for decades, and we've been through some tough times, okay? And this lady, I don't blame her. He was so upset that the money didn't fall in place to bury the power lines, he couldn't even call me and tell me. So her concerns that they're not in the plan, that I share that concern. And so we will have an open forum. And actually, it shouldn't be representative of this organization at all. It just needs to be a really open forum where everything is discussed in detail.
Okay, first of all, I think many of us share that concern about undergrounding, lack of undergrounding. Second of all, I didn't know there was any relative by marriage that happened to have that happen on Main Street. That's news to me. And thirdly, I think you just put out there, I think some of the anger is that you don't realize that we all want to save Main Street. All of us do. We have so much common ground here. And all we've been trying to do is communicate. And I think that's what we need to continue to do because we can work together. We all no one's doubting anybody's contribution to this community.
Then let's start acting
And
like we
Yeah, then
have.
let's start
nobody's doubting any contribution. We all have that common ground, so
We need to
let's.
have what is called civil discourse. And all parties need to partake in civil discourse.
Yes.
Whatever the opinion, or the stand, or the feeling.
We need to tolerate different opinions without anger. We need to tolerate different opinions. We need to get everything out on the table because you don't know where we're all going to end up. We're getting all kinds of information and sometimes our opinions are changing. So don't hate. Please don't hate. We need to work together for our common goals. And now it's time to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.